The conference room door swung open, and Noah Reed froze mid-sentence. His rehearsed pitch died in his throat as a woman in a charcoal suit walked in, flanked by two executives. She moved with quiet authority, her heels clicking against the marble floor. When she reached the head of the table and finally looked up, their eyes met. Noah's face went white. "Hello, Noah," Claire said softly, setting down her briefcase. "It's been a while." The room fell silent. Noah's CFO glanced between them, confused. One of the board members shifted uncomfortably. But Claire remained perfectly still, her expression unreadable. Claire." Noah stammered, his voice cracking. "What are you? I don't understand. What are you doing here?" She pulled out a chair and sat down with deliberate calm. "I'm the CEO of Blackstone Steel. The company you've been trying to secure a contract with for the past 6 months." She paused, letting it sink in. "The company that controls whether your government deal happens or not." Noah's hands gripped the edge of the table. His mind raced, trying to reconcile the woman sitting across from him with the pregnant wife he'd abandoned 4 years ago. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. "You own Blackstone," he whispered. "I do," she said simply. "Well, technically, I inherited it. From my grandfather. But yes, I run it now." The words hung in the air like a blade. For years earlier, Claire had been a different person. Or maybe she'd just forgotten who she was. She'd met Noah at a tech conference in San Francisco when she was 24, fresh out of a graduate program she'd paid for herself. He was brilliant, ambitious, broke. She saw something in him that others didn't. Not just potential, but a kind of hunger that matched her own, though hers had always been quieter. They married 6 months later in a courthouse ceremony. No family. No announcements. Claire's grandfather had disapproved of the match, and she'd been stubborn enough to prove she didn't need his money or his name. She wanted to build something on her own terms. For 3 years, she did. While Noah worked 18-hour days building his startup, Claire worked 2 jobs, paid their rent, cooked meals he barely touched, and stayed up late helping him prepare investor presentations. She believed in him. She believed in them. The night she told him she was pregnant, she'd made his favorite dinner. Pasta carbonara, the one dish she'd perfected after a dozen failed attempts. She waited until he'd had a few bites before she said it. "Noah, I need to tell you something." He looked up from his phone, distracted. I'm pregnant." His fork stopped halfway to his mouth. For a moment, he just stared at her. Then he set the fork down carefully, like he was afraid it might shatter. "You're, what?" "Pregnant," she repeated, her voice smaller now. "About 8 weeks." He pushed back from the table, running both hands through his hair. "Claire, we can't do this right now." Her stomach dropped. "What do you mean we can't?" "I mean the timing is terrible," he said, pacing now. "We just got our Series B funding. I'm meeting with investors every week. The company is about to scale, and I need to be visible, I need to be everywhere, and I can't." He stopped himself, but the damage was done. "You can't what?" she asked quietly. He wouldn't look at her. "I just need you to understand that this complicates things." She felt something crack inside her chest. "Complicates things," she echoed. "Our child complicates things." "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean, Noah?" He didn't answer. He just stood there, staring at the floor, and she realized with sudden, horrifying clarity that he wasn't going to say what she needed him to say. He wasn't going to tell her everything would be okay. He wasn't going to hold her and promise they'd figure it out together. He was already gone. If you're still watching, hit that subscribe button now because what happens next will change everything. 3 months later, Noah's company went viral. A profile in TechCrunch. An interview on a popular podcast. Suddenly, he wasn't just a startup founder, he was a name people recognized. Invitations to exclusive events flooded in. Red carpets. Galas. Private dinners with venture capitalists who wanted to be seen with the next big thing. And Claire, 6 months pregnant and increasingly invisible, watched it happen from their cramped apartment. She tried to be supportive. She told herself it was temporary, that once things settled down, he'd come back to her. But deep down, she knew. She could see it in the way he looked at her now, like she was a reminder of a life he was trying to outgrow. The first time he mentioned Ava Monroe, he tried to sound casual. "There's this actress," he said one night, scrolling through his phone. "Ava Monroe. She's interested in tech investing." Her agent reached out about a potential partnership. Claire looked up from folding laundry. "An actress?" "Yeah, she's been in a few indie films. Smart, though. Really smart. She wants to get involved in startups." Something in his tone made Claire's skin prickle. "Are you meeting with her?" "Maybe. I don't know yet." He was lying. She could tell. But she didn't push. She was too tired to fight. 2 weeks later, photos of Noah and Ava at a charity gala appeared online. They were laughing, standing close, her hand resting lightly on his arm. The caption called them, "Tech's new power couple." Claire saw the photos at 2 in the morning, unable to sleep because the baby was kicking. She sat alone in the dark, staring at her phone, feeling her world collapse in slow motion. When Noah came home the next morning, she was still awake. "We need to talk," she said. He sighed, dropping his keys on the counter. "Claire, it's been a long night. Who is she to you?" He froze. "What? Ava. Who is she to you?" "She's a friend. A contact. I told you." "Don't lie to me," Claire said, her voice shaking. "I saw the pictures. Everyone saw the pictures." He rubbed his face, suddenly looking exhausted. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." He was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was cold. Detached. "I need someone who fits the life I'm building, Claire. Someone who understands this world. Someone who can help me grow the brand." She felt like she'd been slapped. "The brand? Noah, I'm your wife. I'm carrying your child." "I know," he said quietly. "And I'm sorry. But this isn't working anymore." "This," she repeated numbly. "You mean us?" He didn't deny it. The divorce papers arrived 2 weeks later. Noah's lawyer delivered them personally, along with a settlement offer that was insultingly small. He wanted it done quickly, quietly, with minimal publicity. Claire signed them without a fight. She didn't have the energy. She didn't have anything left. The paparazzi caught her leaving the house with a single suitcase. The photos were brutal. Headlines called her the wife he left behind and speculated about why she wasn't good enough. Social media tore her apart. Strangers who knew nothing about her life weighed in on her failures as a woman, as a wife, as a person. Noah and Ava, meanwhile, made their official debut as a couple at a Los Angeles film premiere. They looked perfect together. Glamorous. Inevitable. Claire disappeared. Pittsburgh in November was gray and cold, but Claire found comfort in the familiarity. She'd grown up here, in a house overlooking the river, surrounded by the legacy of a family business she'd spent her entire adult life running from. Her grandfather, Thomas Blackstone, had built an empire from nothing. Blackstone Steel had supplied the railroads that connected the country, the military equipment that won wars, the infrastructure that held cities together. It was powerful, old, essential. And Claire had wanted nothing to do with it. She'd wanted to be normal. To build something on her own. To prove she didn't need the name or the money. But now, sitting in the lawyer's office 3 days after her grandfather's funeral, she realized how foolish she'd been. "He left you everything," the lawyer said, sliding documents across the desk. "Majority control of the company. Full ownership of the estate. All assets and holdings." Claire stared at the papers, her hand resting protectively over her swollen belly. "Why me? He said you were the only one who ever had the spine to walk away. That meant you were the only one strong enough to come back." She felt tears burn behind her eyes but refused to let them fall. Her grandfather had been a hard man, unyielding and cold, but he'd understood her in ways Noah never had. "What do I do now?" she whispered. The lawyer smiled faintly. "You decide what kind of legacy you want to build. Don't miss what happens next. Subscribe and stay with us as Claire's transformation begins." Claire gave birth to a daughter 3 months later. She named her Grace, after her grandmother. Holding that tiny, perfect child in her arms, Claire made a decision. She wasn't going to hide anymore. She wasn't going to shrink herself to fit someone else's vision. She was going to build something unshakable. Not for revenge. Not to prove anything to Noah. But for Grace. So her daughter would never have to beg for a place in the world. She started slowly. Attended board meetings. Asked questions. Learned the business from the ground up. The old executives were skeptical at first, a 28-year-old woman with no experience trying to run a company that had existed for over a century. But Claire had inherited more than just her grandfather's empire. She'd inherited his ruthlessness. Within 2 years, she'd modernized the supply chain, expanded into advanced steel production, and secured contracts with 3 major tech companies. Blackstone Steel wasn't just surviving. It was thriving. By year 4, Claire was a name people whispered in boardrooms. Not because she was loud or flashy, but because she was smart, strategic, and impossible to manipulate. And then Noah's company landed the government contract. Noah had done well for himself. His company, TechPulse, had become a major player in infrastructure technology. The government contract was massive, a $1 billion deal to modernize transportation systems across the country. It required specialized steel, a specific alloy that could withstand extreme conditions. Only one company in North America produced it at the scale they needed. Blackstone Steel. Noah's team had been trying to secure a meeting for months. Claire's assistant had politely deflected every request, saying Ms. Blackstone was reviewing all potential partnerships carefully. Noah didn't recognize the name. Why would he? Claire had never told him about her family. She'd been so determined to be someone else, someone smaller, someone he could control. When the meeting was finally scheduled, Noah flew to New York with his CFO and his head of operations. He was confident. After all, he had the leverage. The government contract was enormous. Any supplier would be desperate for a piece of it. He had no idea what was waiting for him. Now, sitting across from Claire in that conference room, Noah felt the ground shift beneath him. "This is impossible," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. You didn't have anything. You were just. Just what, Noah?" Claire asked, her tone sharp. "Just your wife. Just the woman who paid your rent. Just the person you threw away when she stopped being useful." He flinched. "That's not fair." "Fair?" She laughed, a sound without humor. "You're going to talk to me about fair?" "Claire, I made mistakes. I know that. I was under so much pressure, and I—" "Stop," she said quietly. "I didn't come here to listen to your excuses." His CFO cleared his throat awkwardly. "Perhaps we should discuss the terms of the partnership." "There is no partnership," Claire said, her eyes never leaving Noah's face. The room went silent. "What?" Noah breathed. "Blackstone Steel is declining your contract," she said calmly. "We've decided to pursue other opportunities." Noah's face went red. You can't do that. We need this deal. The entire government contract depends on it. I know, Claire said. And that's unfortunate. But my company has standards. We partner with people we trust. People who honor their commitments. People who don't abandon their responsibilities when things get difficult. This is personal, Noah said, his voice rising. You're doing this to punish me. No, Claire said, standing up. I'm doing this because you're not someone I want to do business with. There's a difference. She gathered her things, nodding to her team. As she reached the door, Noah called out. Claire, please. I'm sorry. I know I hurt you. I know I was wrong. But don't do this. Don't destroy everything I've built. She paused, her hand on the doorknob. When she turned back, her expression was almost sad. I'm not destroying anything, Noah. I'm simply choosing not to save you. Just like you chose not to save me. And then she walked out. The fallout was swift. Without Blackstone Steel, Noah's company couldn't fulfill the government contract. Investors pulled out. Stock prices plummeted. Ava, who'd been enjoying the lifestyle of a tech mogul's girlfriend, quietly ended the relationship and moved on to someone with better prospects. Within 6 months, TechPulse was bankrupt. Noah lost everything. The company, the reputation, the life he'd sacrificed his family to build. He ended up back where he started, except this time, he was alone. Claire stood on the floor of the steel plant, watching Grace run between the massive machines, her laughter echoing off the high ceilings. The workers smiled at her, this bright-eyed child who would one day inherit this empire. Ms. Blackstone, her assistant called. The press is here for the expansion announcement. Claire nodded, smoothing her jacket. As she walked toward the cameras, she thought about Noah. She wondered if he understood now. If he realized that the quiet woman he'd underestimated had always held the power. She just hadn't needed to use it. She didn't destroy him out of anger. She simply chose not to save someone who'd once walked away. Sometimes, the quiet ones hold the greatest power. And sometimes, karma doesn't roar. Sometimes it just waits.